Hello everyone, I'm Ben Contreras,
And I'm Mama.
and welcome back to us making another video where we talk about an anime that we watched. And today we got quite the big one here, and I'm pretty sure we might not be able to finish this all in one video, but we are talking about the anime series slash manga slash basically everything series, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, before we begin talking about, everything about the series, first and foremost, did you like the series?
Yes.
Was it worth watching like over 100 episodes to watch it all?
Yes.
Would you watch it again from beginning to end?
No, not from beginning to end.
Okay. Now, as you know, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is right now, in terms of the anime that's all been fully complete, is it broken up into 4 parts. So I feel like for this video, we should, if we have like a whole lot to say about certain parts, because I'm thinking, what if we first off start with 1 and 2, since they're both in one season, with Jonathan and Joseph, and then in the next video we talk about the 3rd season with Jotaro,
Right.
and then after that, Jack, don't touch that stuff. And then in another video we can talk about part 4 with Josuke and
The one we just watched, right?
yeah. So, overall, I'm pretty sure you've probably said this to me a few times, but your favorite part of the entire JoJo series was actually part 1.
I like part 1 and I guess part 3 when they were in Egypt.
Uh-huh. So,
1 and 3.
part 1, what was the thing that you liked about it the most?
The time period.
The time period? What was it that made you like that sort of like period?
The costume drawings and stuff.
So the overall like aesthetic of everything.
Yes.
And how about, what do you think of the main protagonist, Jonathan Joestar? I feel that's actually what a lot of people think of when they think of, Jonathan as a character. People often like disregard him in terms of this series, especially considering how crazy, the series gets later on.
Right, yeah, it's a lot tamer. And Dio is such a vivacious bad guy that the other guy just seems kind of bland and...
Dio sort of like is constantly like looming over Jonathan in terms of like character.
He's like chocolate cake, and Joestar is like peas. Peas are fine, but I mean, you're gonna want to look at the cake.
And let's see, what did you think of the whole like the sort of like abilities like introduced in part 1 with like the hormone and all this and all that kind of stuff?
Well, for one thing, the word
Hamon
makes me go, I don't like it.
Lots of people also call it ripple energy.
I don't have a problem with ripples. Ripples are awesome.
So that entire like concept of like them using like that kind of power and all that, in the way it was like introduced in the series, like what do you think that sort of like...
It was okay.
You didn't find it as like interesting as the stuff later on?
I just didn't like, maybe I'm stupid, but I just didn't really like get it. Like I understood like when he put the mask on and he became a vampire person. Like, okay, that's why. But I didn't understand why like all of a sudden Joe had magic power. Made no sense to me.
I think one thing I feel like would have been sort of benefited the show was since like part 1 and 2 are put into one whole like 25 episode series.
Right.
It sort of like the first part sort of goes by rather quickly, I'd say.
Yeah.
I feel like if all of part 1 was in like one season, I feel like that one of the things that it could have done was help flesh out a few more of the characters, because I feel like a lot of part 1 is dedicated more and more towards Jonathan's like relationship with Dio. Like the first few episodes are like of Jonathan and Dio like constantly going at it with each other.
Which is fine, because you need to understand why Dio would still be interested in this family in season 3.
Yeah.
When he's been dead for 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that there is a sort of not family but family, you know, bitterness between the two of them. And that's why Dio, with all these powers and everything he could do, why is he still flipping around with these Joestars?
Yeah.
Just forget about him, move on with your life. But he couldn't.
No.
You know, like, even with all his being, he still was like locked into that poisonous thing. So I think that was a good idea. I think they could have used a couple more episodes explaining the ripple better.
Okay.
And like why Joestar has it. You know? And plus I really it just seemed like he was like saccharine. Joestar was like saccharine. Like just too golly gee, I'm so good sort of thing. Like he didn't have like a flaw that would make you care about him.
Yeah.
He just seemed, don't show your bum bum. That's Jack. Hey Jackie. Hey Jackson. He's a good boy. That didn't make you connect with him. Really. Like I understood Dio. He was bitter because he had a crappy dad that he's put into this family. And even though they were nice to him, he still had to feel like a second-class citizen because he came from trash, and why was this kid born into this life, you know? And the Joestar's dad, George, was a horse's ass because he was always letting his son get abused by Dio, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't like that at all.
No.
So it made him seem wishy-washy, which I guess explains why his son was the way he was. But I just kind of found it obnoxious.
What about Jonathan's love interest, Arena? What do you think of like her?
Typical.
Yeah, she felt. I feel like she was sort of like one of the blandest like characters in the series.
Just your token sweet chick that the hero has to love forever. You know, kind of.
And what about the two major like side characters, Speedwagon and Mr. Zappelli?
They were more interesting at being side characters than the main character good guys. You know what I mean?
I feel like that's
Like
that's the sort of thing that JoJo really does a lot. Like they sort of like start to focus on JoJo himself, but then I feel like a lot of people remember more of the side characters than the actual main character.
Yeah, which is refreshing.
Yeah.
Especially in season 3 when they're in Egypt.
Yeah.
I think that was a very well balanced season because the Joestars were still in the thick of it, and they were still characters.
But people were getting more and more involved.
Right. They didn't get lost though.
No.
Like the side characters were very dynamic. And it was a good bouncing off of each other. But the side characters didn't make you forget about the Joestars. In the first one, it seemed to me like he was kind of like, he's there. He's like vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
It's there, but if there's chocolate and strawberry, you're going to go for chocolate and strawberry. You know, a little more flavor to them. Which...
And now there's also the ending of part 1. Where, spoiler alert for those of you who haven't actually watched the show yet. So, the ending of part 1, where it ends with Jonathan and Dio, you know, supposedly dying off in that humongous explosion on the boat. Like, how do you think that scene, like, how do you feel about that scene overall?
I knew Dio wasn't dead. You know, I knew he was going to come back. That was kind of like... But I wasn't sad like that Joestar was dead. It was just like, oh well.
Okay. Now...
Like, I thought it was kind of ridiculous. Don't try to save me. Go save this baby that I don't know. It's like... Okay. Whatever. Just like, you know, that complete selflessness, and it's just so unrelatable, sorry.
Yeah. Now, what about, now, let's talk about part 2 of the series, where it introduces, you know, Joseph Joestar.
The grandson, right?
Yeah, the grandson.
and they're in New York, right?
During like World War II.
Yeah. I really didn't like this one at all. Like this, if I were to rewatch it, I could watch season 1 again, maybe, but I would definitely watch Egypt and the last season.
Okay.
I would watch those 2 for sure again. I enjoyed that.
What was the thing about
this one? I for sure would not watch again.
What exactly was it that made you not really like this part of the series?
The whole Nazi thing, like trying to make them seem like they were kind of good guys, but in a way, I don't know if that makes sense, but like, yeah, I thought that was stupid. I didn't like the grandson's attitude. I didn't like the location in New York. I didn't like his grandma. I didn't